Alright, so today I will be teaching you about four sampling methods in statistics. Those are going to be convenience sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, and stratified sampling. So just to read you the definitions here. Convenience sampling is a type of sampling that is not random and involves using a population that is readily available. So think about you go out in front of your classroom or in the quad or a cafeteria of your school. The next 100 people to pass by you survey those people. That's what a convenience sampling is. It's all about convenience. That's literally the point. That's what it's titled. Cluster sampling, dividing the population into groups and then randomly selecting some of the groups. All the members from these chosen groups are in the cluster sample. So an example of cluster sample would be let's say a food chain wants to do a survey of its customers. It has a certain amount of restaurants. It's a chain. Let's say it has 20 restaurants, and it decides that out of those 20, it's going to randomly choose 4, and they're going to survey. They're going to survey every customer in those 4 restaurants. Okay, so they take all of them. They have 20 restaurants, and then they decide we're going to survey every customer out of these X number of restaurants. You see what I'm saying? So you take the number of groups and then you choose randomly, a certain amount of restaurants as opposed to, doing percentages, okay? Systematic sampling, randomly selecting a starting point in a list of names and take every nth piece of data from a listing of the population. Systematic samples are a special subset of cluster samples. So, you just have a starting point and then you go, I'm going to take every 7th name. So you go, you count up to 7, you take that person and you survey them, and then you just keep going with that. Go another 7, go another 7, go another 7. That's how systematic sampling works. Stratified sampling. This is dividing the population into groups and then taking your sample from a proportionate number from each group. So think of an example as, you have 20 floors in a hotel, and what you do is you randomly select 2 from each floor. So instead of taking 20 floors and basically saying, I'm going to randomly select 4 full floors to look through, where I go through all 4 floors to survey people, instead of doing that, you go, I'm going to do 2 from each floor. I'm going to randomly select 2 rooms from each hotel floor out of the 20. So instead of having 20 floors and choosing I'm going to randomly sample out 4 floors where I'm going to go through all of the floors. Instead of doing that, you just choose 2 rooms from every single floor. So it's a proportionate number is how it works. So let's go ahead and do some examples here, some example questions, just to kind of put this in. So this question says, true or false, stratified sampling was used in the scenario below. A random number generator is used to select a student from the alphabetical listing of all undergraduate students in the fall semester. Starting with that student, every 50th student is chosen until 75 students are included in the sample. So this is false. This is not stratified sampling. The key word for stratified sampling, by the way, is proportionate. As soon as you see the word proportionate, it's stratified sampling. There's no proportion here. This, of course, is systematic sampling, where you go have a starting point, and then you have every nth number. You're going to take that name, and then you're going to question that person. So this is not stratified sampling. In fact, it is systematic sampling. Now we will go on here. This then talks about convenience sampling as well here. It just brings this back up. So we will continue with these questions. It says down below here, as you can see, it says question, which of the following sample scenarios describe convenience sampling? Select the correct answer below. The freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years were numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. A random number generator is used to pick 2 of these years. All students belonging to those 2 years were in the sample. This is not it. That is cluster sampling. You take, to randomly select 2 of the 4 years, and then everybody in those 2 years is sampled. That's cluster. That is not convenience sampling. This is the other option. Says An administrative assistant was asked to stand in front of the library one Wednesday and ask the first 100 undergraduate students he encountered what they paid for tuition for the fall semester. Those 100 students were the sample. So this is convenience sampling, okay? That's what it is. You go in front of somewhere and the next 100 people to show up, you survey them. That's the way it works. You sample them. Of course, there's a correct answer. And then we've got another question here. It says, in order to study the shoe sizes of people in his town, Billy samples the population by dividing the residents by age and randomly selecting a proportionate number of residents from each age group. Which type of sampling is used? Now, of course, remember, the key word here that's a dead giveaway is proportionate, okay? As soon as you see that word proportionate, know immediately that proportionate is stratified sampling, okay? You're taking a proportionate number from each group that you have created, and you are surveying those people. So this is stratified sampling, of course. That's exactly what it is. He samples it by dividing the residents by age, and then he randomly selects a proportionate number from each age group. That's what he does. Takes all the age groups, takes a proportionate number from each, and then goes on to, survey them. That's the sampling method. Next one we got here, okay? It says, in order to study the mean pulse rate of people in his town, Jerry samples the population by dividing the residents by regions and randomly selecting 12 of the regions. He collects data from all residents in the selected regions. Which type of sampling is used? This, of course, is cluster sampling. Again, he takes, he takes all the regions and says, he divides it into regions, obviously, and then says, I'm going to take 12 of these. I'm going to randomly select 12 of these, and then I'm going to survey all of them, is what it is. This is obviously cluster sampling, of course. Another one here, okay? It says, to study the mean head size of all people in her state, Jacqueline collects data from 20 people in her town. Which type of sampling is used? So this one, of course, is convenience sampling because it's people in her own town. So it's, the very convenient thing to do, of course. If it's the whole state, obviously the 20 people in your town is not going to be representative of the entire state. Therefore, it is convenience sampling because you conveniently are getting it just from people in your own town. So that, of course, is convenience sampling. Another one here says, in reference to different sampling methods, is the following statement true or false? Systematic sampling includes the steps: identify individuals of the population that are easily accessible, obtain data from these individuals. This is false, of course. The described form of sampling is convenience sampling. Obviously, easily accessible is very, very easy to tell. And the last one here that we're going to be looking at, the last example here, it says, when considering different sampling methods, stratified sampling includes the steps, select the correct answer below, divide the population into groups, use simple random sampling to identify a proportionate number of individuals from each group. Then it says list numbers of the population, and there's you can see that. Identify individuals of the population that are easily accessible, obtain the data from these individuals, use simple random sampling to select a set of groups. Every individual in these chosen groups are included in the sample. So this one here is the stratified, okay? Again, don't forget proportion is the keyword. This right here is systematic because it does the nth number. Then you have this one, which is convenience, of course, easily accessible, of course. And then the bottom one is actually cluster sampling because you're taking, you have a number of groups and you choose to survey everyone in a random select few of those groups. So that will be the final example of this video. So let me know if you have any questions on this down below, anything I can clarify, but I hope that helps.